is Bean to Barstool, a podcast that looks at the intersections of craft beer and craft chocolate. My name is David Nilsen. I'm a professional beer writer and an advanced cicerone, and the creator and host of this show. The music for this episode is by my dear friend, indie folk musician Anna P.S. You can find out more about Anna's music in the show notes or at her website, annapsmusic.com. You can find links and information about our guests in the show notes as well. I hope you enjoy this episode of Bean to Barstool. Few names in craft chocolate hold more esteem than Goodnow Farms. The craft chocolate maker from Sudbury, Massachusetts was founded in 2015 by husband and wife team Tom and Monica Rogan, and they cover the full spectrum of what craft chocolate is all about. They make elegant single-origin dark chocolate bars that let the cacao speak for itself. They work with classic inclusions like coffee, nuts, and fruit. They also work with unexpected inclusions like green Sichuan peppers or caramelized onions. And in the spirit of Bean to Barstool, they do collabs with alcohol producers for bars made with rye whiskey, rum, cider, and others. Today I'm talking with Monica Rogan, and before I pressed record, I asked her if she had any questions, and she said, "I'd just like to have a conversation." We certainly had a good one, talking about those collaborations with spirits distilleries and cideries, the compatibility of coffee and cacao, developing unique flavor concepts, and how she and Tom find just the right profile to let a particular bean sing in a single origin bar. At the start, she explains the dual significance of the name Goodnow Farms.
Goodnow Farms chocolate. The name for our company came from a combination of things. One, the name of the historic farm that where we live, and we also, have our chocolate factory. We built a chocolate factory behind the barn. It's over 225 years old, and it's been like an amazing place to be able to live and work. So everything is made here from bean to bar. And we also, though, couldn't do it without our farmers. And our farmers are throughout North America, Central America, and South America. So the reason why we call it Goodnow Farms chocolate is because the cacao comes from many farms, and then it's made here on our farm.
I love that connection with the farms. Can you talk a little bit more about how you're sourcing your cacao? Are you working directly with farms or with someone like Uncommon Cacao? How do you go about that?
We actually, for all of the cacao that we use in our regular bar lineup, we have direct relationships with all of our farmers. What that means is we've been to origin, we know the farmers, we've met them, we understand where the cacao is coming from, the farming conditions. We're aligned with, our ethos, and we've agreed that we want to include that cacao in our lineup because it has first and foremost, great flavor, and we want to work together. When we say work directly, there's no one size fits all approach. For some farmers, I go down there and I meet them and work with them and import directly from them. And then some farmers, we've met them through cacao sourcing partners like Uncommon Cacao, like Cacao Services, Dan O'Doherty. So there, like I said, there's no one size fits all approach. But the thing that is first and foremost is that we have a direct relationship with all of our farmers so that we can understand what is happening with the cacao, because we don't hide behind any additives when we make our chocolate. And we have to be able to understand what we're working with.
I think most craft chocolate makers are very passionate about allowing beans from different origins to really express what makes them unique, or at least I hope that that's what they're passionate about. How do you approach that process of developing what you feel is the right profile for a bean when you get new beans in from a different origin?
Yeah. Well, we love it that the beans we work with are all unique. Cacao flavor, it comes from not only genetics of cacao, also from terroir when it's being grown and harvested, and then in addition from fermentation and then drying and all these things. So there's a lot of different things that happen on the ground that impact flavor. And we like to develop unique test roast profiles for each one of the bean types. We do a lot of testing, and we see how the beans react at different, temperature levels, And then we do different, grind profiles to see how we can pull out different flavors with pressure and time. It's really fun, and every bean is unique. Another thing we do that's really paramount to allow the full flavor of the bean to be expressed in our chocolate is, beans are half fat and half solid. And the cocoa butter, fat translates flavor. So it's really important to us when we make our single origin chocolate that we're only having that bean represented. So we freshly press single origin cocoa butter from that same bean type we're using in that batch and supplement the cacao beans that we grind with cocoa butter from that origin. So you're only tasting the flavor of that origin. So the additional fat, it not only enhances the flavor of that bean, but it also really makes the sensory experience of eating the chocolate pleasurable, having that additional fat on your tongue, because you are able to taste fat. That is a flavor that people can taste.
Do you have a bar or an origin that you can give us as an example of how that process went?
Sure. I mean, every single bar, we do the same types of things. I guess I'll talk about our Colombian bar, our Boyacá. That's a fun one too, because not only when we were at Origin, visiting farmers that grow the cacao for the Boyacá origin, we were seeing them at their farms, like different, like Marina at her farm, and these other brothers that had a farm, and we would visit them, and then we went then to the central fermentation facility where all of their beans are brought to ferment, and we were tasting the fermentation samples. And when we tasted them, we commented that there were certain things we liked, certain things we didn't like, and they actually developed another fermentation profile that went along more with how we knew we could evoke flavors out of it, which was really cool. So we used that bean, and we, brought it back well, we didn't bring it back. They transported it for us. So we received it after it was shipped. And we did a lot of testing. We have a small little tester oven, roast 5 pounds at a time. You could roast 1 pound at a time. You, take off the shells, you bite into the seed, you see if you like it, you grind it, you put it in tiny little melangers, and you just do step-by-step testing. You change variables each time, and you see what you like and what you don't like, and you see where the flavor could line up, with your other players and your chocolate lineup. Every bean is unique. Every bean has a story to tell. And I think it's up to us to find out what each bean has to work with and see how to bring forward the best qualities in a chocolate bar that other people can enjoy and connect with and share with others.
Well, in addition to your single origin bars, you do a wide range of inclusion bars. And I know you told me recently that you're working on one with a hard cider maker. Tell me about that project.
We are. That's been really fun. So we do have a variety of inclusion bars. We have inclusion bars that are in our regular standard lineup that you can count on having. And then there are other ones we have fun with seasonally and limited releases. The limited release bar that is launching very, very soon is our Unfiltered Hard Cider bar. We collaborated with brewery Downeast Cider. It's a cider house located in Boston, and they make awesome, awesome hard cider. And the unique thing about their hard cider is that it's unfiltered. So you actually have some of the apple juice still in the cider. So it's super appley tasting. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a pleasure to enjoy. I've been enjoying it for years. And I actually found out pretty recently that the gentleman who started this company is from the same town where we live in Sudbury, Massachusetts. Oh, wow. And then that's what started me thinking, this is another crafter that makes this premium product that I just love. And for us, we love working with other crafters that are like-minded with, highlighting premium flavors and, with sustainability in mind, or, just some other thing that makes their product unique. And we reached out to him and to their team, and it's been really cool to collaborate on this bar. It's not something they've ever really done before, so this is a new thing for them. And it's really fun for us. And we're going to have a celebration in a few weeks where we go have a pop up at their cider house, and we're going to celebrate the cider we used, which was an 8% overboard. That's what it's called, the overboard cider. It's an 8% unfiltered hard apple cider. And the bar that we've created, the unfiltered craft cider, or excuse me, unfiltered hard cider bar.
That sounds awesome. Is that cider like a blend of apples, or is it a specific variety? Do you know?
I believe it's a blend of apples. I know that the apples are harvested at a nearby town, and I know that they've grown so much that they actually they have a relationship with the gentleman that has a farm, and he harvests the apples from his farm, and I think he supplies them as needed. And it's a pretty consistent thing because Downeast actually makes a lot of different ciders. So not only do they make apple ciders, they also make other flavored ciders, which are truly delicious. But it is a blend and it is a local apple. And it's really fun to be close to home and have that connection and be able to share with people, who are like-minded and in the area.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what was the process for making that bar? Did you soak nibs in the cider or use the same apples? How are you actually getting those flavors?
Sure, yeah. So we actually make another apple cider bar. Our original apple cider bar is something unique to our farm. It's a spiced apple cider bar where we actually harvest the apples from our trees and dehydrate them, and then add in some cinnamon and use cider that's not alcoholic from another farm. And I love that bar, but it is a labor of love. And I was thinking, what if we tried doing it a little differently? And we used a different approach for the Downeast bar, the unfiltered hard cider bar. We actually took their hard cider and we soaked our nibs in the hard cider for a few days and topped off the soaking quite a bit. And then after we let the nibs soak, we dried them out so that all of the alcohol dissipated. And then we did grind the nibs. Sorry, I forgot to say we roasted the nibs first and soaked roasted nibs. And then we ground them and created our chocolate with it. So, we take different processes for different types of bars we want to create. And when we were envisioning this bar, I've kind of thought of different things I've done with other bars and thought, well, how can I really retain the flavors that I want for this bar and really enhance other things? And that's how we came up on this process.
Do you feel like the flavor of that cider comes through like identifiably in the bar? Would you recognize that cider?
Absolutely. I feel strongly about making chocolate that tastes like what you say it tastes like. So
A
when I
novel
label,
concept.
well, sometimes everyone's got a different approach, and everyone, I appreciate that. And for me, though, I make chocolate how I want to eat it, and I enjoy eating it. I say my husband and I make chocolate how we like to eat it. And I like it when the flavors are more pronounced. But I also like it when you can taste the flavor of the chocolate. I don't want it ever to be too heavy on the added flavor. And I think that this unfiltered cider bar is really nice. I think that it's a nice balance of chocolate with the tart flavor of freshly harvested apples and still a little bit of that breadiness that you get, when you have a cider. So I think it's a really nice combination.
That sounds fantastic. I can't wait to try it. You
Thanks.
do a couple other collaboration bars with other beverage alcohol producers. I know you've got the Putnam Rye Whiskey bar. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Sure, sure. I love that bar. That's one of my favorite bars. Actually, I could probably say that about all of my chocolate bars. All of my chocolate bars are one of my favorites. That's why we've kept them in the lineup. But this one is a special bar. Tom made it for me many years ago for my birthday, and he made it for me because I asked him make me something special and unique, and he surprised me with it. And when I tasted it, I just fell in love with it. And he was like, well, enjoy it now because this was a really expensive bar to make and I don't think anyone's ever going to pay for it. And I said, don't worry. If they understand the quality and what it tastes like, I think people will be willing to pay for the value of it. And they have been because it's so good. We love we love the way that the Putnam Rye Whiskey blends and like creates new flavors with the cacao. It's not when people sometimes say I enjoy whiskey, sometimes they like the heat or like smokiness or something else about it. This whiskey just pairs so beautifully. And while you can tell that was whiskey there, the way that it combines with the flavor notes of the cacao, I feel like you're eating like a warm, freshly baked banana bread or
Mm.
fruit cake or something. So it's a different flavor combination. And it's really nice.
I think I've had that experience with a couple other whiskey bars where I feel like it ends up leaning more almost rum like fruity in its expression.
Yeah.
And I'd be really curious what the actual chemical pathways are when those interact that creates that. How do you go about selecting the cacao that you're going to use when you're making a whiskey bar, hard cider, something like that? Do you have a standard blend or do you actually pick a particular origin based on its flavor profile?
Sure. No, we're only single origin makers. So we, specifically pair origins with other ingredients. And we do that based on the flavor composition or flavor profiles of the ingredients. So each one of my single origin bars in the signature line that we have, I think we have six different bars. I hope we have six different bars because that's what I'm remembering. Actually, we have seven origins we work with. Each origin has a unique flavor profile, and some are more acidic and more like bright fruits, like pineapple and mango notes. Others are more deep, jammy fruits, like like I don't know, Cabernet grapes or like a berry jam. Another one is more deep fudgy chocolate with marshmallow undertones. Another one's more like creamy orange. And these are all just the natural flavor profiles of the cacao. So if you think about it, when you're building a recipe, like when you're making anything, you want to flavor and combine different ingredients with other things that can bring out different characteristics. So we really start there thinking about, okay, what's the ingredient we want to pair and how would it pair with this cacao that has these natural undertones? And we do a couple of different test batches, maybe with different types of cacao to see, what comes out during the process, because it doesn't always align like you think it would. Different things are more prevalent when different chemicals combine to create other compounds. So it's really a lot of just testing and trying.
You used the phrase labor of love earlier. This sounds like such a laborious process of getting it right every single time.
We'll be right back.
Hey everyone. Getting a Cicerone certification is an amazing way to raise your beer knowledge and can be a game changer for your beer career. But how are you supposed to find the time to prep, and how are you supposed to know exactly what to study? Don't sweat, because the Beer Scholar has you covered. The Beer Scholar is a sponsor of Bean to Barstool, but I can tell you from personal experience years before I was doing this podcast how helpful the Beer Scholar study guides are. They offer efficient online courses for levels 1 and 2 that cover everything you need to know, tips and tricks for how to pass the exams, and include live weekly Zooms to taste and discuss classic beer styles together. They even have a new coaching program for the Level 3 Advanced Cicerone exam. I used the Beer Scholar study guide to pass my Level 2 exam many years ago. I wish the Level 3 had been around when I took that exam. I had to do it on my own. Wish their study guides had been available for that at the time. The vast majority of certified Cicerones in the world today have used Beer Scholar to help achieve the goal of passing that exam. If you are ready to take your beer career to the next level, visit thebeerscholar.com and check out their online courses.
Yes, yes, it is. It is a labor of love. Chocolate is chocolate's really unique. It's funny because you probably encounter this too when you talk to people about having a podcast about beer and chocolate, and they must say, "Oh, you must have so much fun," or
Right.
like how do you not eat
How do I
everything?
get
And
that job?
Right? Right. And it is amazing because I feel so grateful that I get to work with people and I get to travel and know them and understand, I have a better understanding of, players in food and in, how our lives work. But it's also like I do make food, and making food is really hard. It's laborious. There are lower margins. It's not necessarily like I'm a small craft chocolate maker, and it's harder to realize profits when you're so small.
Sure.
um, it's something where I'm grateful I get to do it, and I get to do it with my husband, and we get to realize our vision of trying to emphasize telling the story of where cacao comes from and why it's important and why people should care and look at this really amazing, great tasting food that you can get if you actually have all these things align. That's really important, but it is a labor of love. And I also, that's one of the things that we try to share with our brand and with every bar being unique. We try to share that story so people do understand those things.
I know Putnam, going back to the whiskey bar, I know that that's a New England brand. It's not one I'm terribly familiar with. Can you tell us briefly about that whiskey specifically that you selected?
Sure. Boston Harbor Distillery makes a variety of liquors, and Putnam Rye Whiskey is a delicious, a delicious one that they make. They also make Lawley's rum, and we use their rum to make our rum bar. And the way we found Boston Harbor Distillery is because the funny thing is when we wanted to make our whiskey bar, Tom made my birthday bar for me, and it was amazing. And we're like, okay, well, let's test all of the craft whiskeys to see which one pairs the best with the beans. And I kid you not, we literally, I think we took at least like 10 different craft whiskeys and soaked nibs it and did different test batches and everything. And we also found some local distillers that maybe we weren't as familiar with, but that we knew were local and had a good product. And Boston Harbor Distillery was one of them. And their whiskey, the way that it combined with our beans, that was the premium flavor. Like it was so good. It was nice and sweet. And oh, it was just great. So from the get-go, we're finding the best like flavor partners. And we also love it that they are local and that we now have a relationship with them. Not only do we get the Putnam Rye whiskey from them, we get the Lawley's rum from them, and we're making another limited release bar with their Demon Seed whiskey for Halloween.
Oh,
And it's delicious. It's really fun. And we just love working with them. And it's fun when you get these local partners, you can have these ongoing relationships. It makes life so much more enjoyable and interesting.
well, now I need to know about Demon Seed. What makes that unique?
Well, that's a really good one too, because you've got your whiskey, but you also have the scorpion pepper
Oh,
and
wow.
yes, and a little bit of ginger in there. So it's just a really nice combination of those flavors. And we used a different cacao as the chocolate to pair that with versus the Putnam Rye whiskey bar. So I think it just shows you that, combining different flavors, even different types of cacao with different flavors, you get different combinations and final products that are really unique and delicious.
Well, let's talk about the Lawley's rum bar that you've mentioned a couple times. I always love bars made with rum because I feel like that spirit expresses itself so uniquely with the right cacao. Tell us a little bit about that bar.
I really like that bar. What I found really interesting was this was we made our Putnam Rye whiskey bar first, and the realization of that bar for me when I have it, when I taste it, it is literally like a warm banana bread, fruit cake, that kind of tasting, right? That combination and medley of flavors. So I was anticipating something like that with the rum bar that we would make. I was thinking the molasses would blend a certain way and different things would come out. When we did our test batches, we had a lot of different results, and the one that we really enjoyed was when the rum was more rum forward. So you definitely have a combination there, but the rum, you can tell its prominence in the bar. So it's nice because You take a bite of the chocolate, you taste a little bit of the rum, then you have more of the chocolate flavor coming through. And at the end, you get that rum kick, and you're like, yes, that is definitely rum. But it's not overpowering as an alcoholic sense. Like all of the alcohol has, oxidized. It's all out of there, but you can definitely feel it. You can feel the combination of the way that the compounds combined. It's really cool.
Yeah, there's definitely a spiritus quality that you get from bars like this. I need to order both of these bars and try them. And now I need to wait and get the Demon Seed one too. With a variety of hard spirits bars, the best ones, you do get a sense of that spiritus quality, even though you know the alcohol isn't there anymore. And I'm very curious
Yes.
what are the combination of flavors and aromas that are telling my brain this used to be liquor,
Yes.
even though it's not
Yes.
actually there anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree. They have a beautiful still on site, and I've actually been there when they've been distilling, and when the distiller's been, like calculating and timing and like smelling and being like, okay, now it's time to cut it. I'm like, okay, cut it. I'm watching you.
Such an amazing science. What they're doing is so
Yeah, it's really
exacting.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned picking origins based on these different inclusions. Can you share with us the origins you used in these different spirits bars?
Sure, yeah. So in our Putnam Rye Whiskey bar, we use our Esmeraldas cacao from Ecuador. That's from the Salazar family farm in Esmeraldas, Ecuador. For the rum bar, we use actually the same origin of cacao. So it's a beautiful cacao, and it just plays very, very well with both the rye whiskey and the rum. For the Demon Seed whiskey bar that we're going to release around Halloween or before Halloween, we use the Boyaca cacao from Colombia, and those play really well together. For the Unfiltered Craft Hard Cider bar, we use the Dominican Republic Zorzal cacao. It's really cool. We actually work with the Comunitario cacao from Zorzal, and it's a really nice cacao. It's got a really good chocolatey base, and when you combine it with the unfiltered craft cider, it's a beautiful pairing.
That sounds wonderful. So you've done multiple collaborations with different beverage alcohol makers, and with what I cover with Bean to Barstool, there are so many of these collaborations out there. Beyond just being fellow small businesses, what do you find is so compatible between craft chocolate and craft beer, craft spirits, craft cider? Like, what is it you feel that just makes those work together so well from a philosophical standpoint as businesses?
My goodness. I think the reason why we all play so well together is because we're all about expressing flavor and communicating flavor with others, sharing and connecting. Everybody eats, everybody drinks, whether it's alcohol, non-alcoholic, whatever types of food, but you enjoy flavor. And I think that it's really fun to be able to share different flavors and share the stories that go along with the different flavors and explain why the flavors exist. I think it's really cool to, when you're talking about spirits and you're talking about different whiskeys, to understand that there are whiskeys that you can make with corn, and then you can make it with rye, and they taste totally different. The corn ones, we were in Kentucky, they said they give you a Kentucky hug in your throat, so you give a little bit of heat. And the rye is just a little bit sweeter. And that's just because of the different ingredients you start with. Well, people should be looking at chocolate more like that, like there are different types of cacao you can use. And the different types of cacao yield different, final chocolate products. And some of it's, just based on the ingredients. So I think that that's really a fun way to look at things and to explain things to people. It's the same thing with, craft coffee too. And, how origins and terroirs impact things and where things come from and why. So I think it's important to explain the story so that people can understand and connect, and you can all have a better conversation.
We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, my book on pairing craft beer and craft chocolate is available now on Amazon and on the Bean to Barstool shop. Pairing Beer and Chocolate, a guide to bringing the flavors of craft beer and craft chocolate together, is out now. This paperback book explains the process of pairing beer and chocolate, includes a guide to hosting a pairing at home, walks through dozens of beer styles to provide style-by-style pairing guidance, and gives room for taking your own pairing notes along the way. This is the only book on pairing beer and chocolate available. Grab your copy now at the link in the show notes or on Amazon. If you manage a taproom, bookstore, chocolate shop, or cafe and want to stock the book, get in touch about our easy wholesale process. Beer and chocolate belong together, and this book is your guide to getting the most out of every pairing. Well, on the note of coffee, you do several different bars with different coffee origins. Coffee and cacao are, if they're not actually related, biologically, they feel like they are spiritually close cousins to each other from their origins and some of the similar problems both industries have faced, and even complementary flavors very often. Can you talk a little bit about the different coffee bars that you make?
Sure. Gosh, it was really hard to make just one, so we made three. So we have three different coffee bars that we craft on a regular basis. So the first coffee bar that we ever made was our El Carmen with Coffee Crunch, and that coffee bar is delicious. We use our El Carmen cacao from Nicaragua. We work with GIF from Cacao Biciesto for that cacao. And it's really cool. This is truly a single origin bar because that cacao comes from Nicaragua. And then the coffee that we get, that we grind up to a little bit of a coarse texture, and then we put it in the bar. That coffee comes from a family farm about 25 kilometers away from GIF's farm in Matagalpa, Nicaragua. So there's a local coffee roastery in Boston called El Recreo Coffee Roastery. And the people that run that, it's their family farm in Nicaragua. So it's really cool. So we met them, we talked to them, we sourced the coffee, from El Recreo. We actually went and met their family at their family farm in Nicaragua too, and saw where they grow the coffee, harvest it, process it. So that's a really fun bar. It's delicious. It's very, that bar is really like chocolate forward, deep dark chocolate with little like flavor crunches, bursts of coffee. And it's a light roast coffee. So you can still, it's not over roasted, and you still get the flavor. It's really nice. That's a great bar. The next bar that we've made is in our special reserve line. It's the Las Palomas coffee bar. And we actually worked with George Howell Coffee. George Howell's been in craft coffee for many, many years. He is like, I think probably the god or the grandfather of craft coffee. And he found these great farmers in Guatemala that make this beautiful coffee called Las Palomas. And it's so delicious to drink. And it's more, I would say, I think it's more acidic. And when we were drinking it, we thought this would be a perfect combination with our Guatemalan cacao, our Asochivite cacao from Guatemala. So what we do is we actually soak the nibs from the Guatemalan cacao that have been already roasted. We soak them in brewed Las Palomas coffee that George Howell brews for us, that George Howell Coffee brews for us. And we let the flavors combine, and then we dry the nibs, and then we grind it and turn it into chocolate. And this experience, it's not so much in your face chocolate with coffee. It's more chocolate with a hint of coffee and acidity and fruitiness. And it's really nice. It's a nice balance. And then the third bar we make is a delicious bar. So I used to live in Central America. I was, for a brief while, a hostess at a hotel in Costa Rica. And I would wake up with the 6 a.m. crew to tell people how to book their tours for the day. And I would drink my cafe con leche when the jungle was waking up. And I loved that part of my day and how it tasted. And I remember thinking, I want to craft a bar that reminds me of that flavor, waking up with the steaming jungle and drinking your cafe con leche and the sweetness and the chocolate undertones. And so Barrington Coffee from the Berkshires, they make a tremendous roasted coffee. It's so nice. And we actually use their coffee and we grind it up just a little bit and we combine it with our boyaca cacao and a little bit of milk, and we make a cafe con leche bar. And it's really nice because it does remind me totally of the cafe con leche that I used to drink in the mornings in Costa Rica waking up.
So I imagine you see those images in your mind every time you taste that bar.
I do. I do. And it's a nice reminder because all of these flavors, they come from different places, but when they play right together, when they play well together, it just reminds you of experiences you've had, and it's nice to remember those experiences.
Absolutely. I love that you're making these bars using cacao and coffee from the same origins. It's such a cool way to be able to tell the story of a place.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Well, beyond just putting these flavors together in your bars, of course, you can pair chocolate beautifully with a variety of beverages. Do you have the opportunity to do pairings with your bars, whether just for yourself or, as a business to pair them with different drinks?
We love chocolate pairings. Chocolate pairings are one of the best ways to really remind people that chocolate is a food, and that it complements other foods so well. One of our favorite things to pair chocolate with is cheese.
Mm.
And we actually work with a lot of cheesemongers and other cheese shops. And we recommend what chocolates that we make pair well with their cheeses. We worked with, oh, goodness gracious, Gray Barn in Martha's Vineyard. They make amazing, amazing cheese. And we just paired their blue cheese with our Ecuador chocolate, our Esmeraldas chocolate from Ecuador. And the way that the two combine, it creates a totally different flavor. It's just awesome. Like people would think, oh, you don't really pair blue cheese with chocolate, but you do, and it's really good. And it's not too heady. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the flavors just combine just right. And it's really fun to work with cheese shops. They pair different cheeses with our chocolate too. It's also really fun to pair it. A lot of people talk about pairing wines with chocolate, and you can definitely do that. I love pairing like a really, really nice, like a tawny port with our El Carmen chocolate bar. It's always a nice, really good combination. And actually, it's really fun too to pair like a Prosecco or a Cava with our Ucayali from Peru. Like that's a really nice pairing too, because the herbal nature of the Peru bar really complements the sparkling wine. So,
Sure.
there are a lot of different ways you could do it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, beyond beverage alcohol and coffee, you do a whole wide range of different inclusion bars, and some of them are really unexpected flavor concepts that I don't think you probably see a lot in craft chocolate. I know you've used caramelized onions and different things. How do you go about developing these one-off flavor concepts for inclusion bars?
Wow. Well, the way we've developed all of our chocolate is what do we like to eat and what do we want to see? So if we're craving something or if we think something would taste really good together, we try it and we see what happens. The caramelized onion bar, that's a very unique bar. It is delicious. And I personally did not know it was going to be so delicious. My husband was a huge proponent and saying that this is going to be so good. And I was like, well, I'm not really sure about that because we have different palates. But he went full speed ahead and he made this test batch and I tasted it. And at first I tasted it and I wasn't sure because I had to calibrate my palate. And I took a second bite. And after that second bite, I was like, this is a really great chocolate. You nailed it. And it's just really fun because you taste the different flavors combining and it's a totally brand new experience. And that was really cool. Another really fun bar that is my daughter's favorite is the herbaceous Sichuan pepper bar. And that is a really fun bar. I came across the Sichuan pepper in a spice shop. And once I smelled it and how aromatic it was this particular brand that was very fresh and it was just really flavorful. I knew I wanted to test it in the kitchen and I knew it would be really, really delicious in a chocolate bar. And it was fun to pair that with our Peruvian chocolate. It was really fun to work with the maker or the person who, sells the Sichuan peppers because it's just fun. The people that you meet along the way and the relationships that you form and where that leads you. So it's just a delicious bar, and it's tingly. It's not hot. People don't really realize that. So it's really fun to share this with people and have them taste the journey, because you get one flavor in the beginning, then another flavor, then another flavor, and at the end, you've got a totally different flavor. So it's just fun.
Are Szechuan peppers the ones that have the slight numbing quality to them?
Yes, they do. They have a numbing quality. They have a chemical compound called alpha hydroxysanchule, and it causes your tongue to vibrate approximately at a frequency of 50 hertz. And so, like, this actually, it's something that does happen. But what's unique about this is that there are all these other compounds inside the Sichuan that cause you to have different reactions as well. So you might get like a pininess or, herbal nature, and then maybe like lemony citrus. But the really cool thing is at the end, you get this cool wintergreen fresh feel. That's a really nice sensation. So it's just fun to have people have that experience. Maybe that they've never had that before,
Yeah. Do you find there's much of a challenge in getting people to be willing to try bars like this? Is there like an education component to say, just trust me, try this bar?
I have to say, I think there was more of a challenge creating and establishing our brand in the beginning, because I think we started, I don't know, it was over 10 years ago. And this is still when, even though craft chocolate started in the mid 90s, it's taken a while for people to truly understand and accept that it can be a food with unique flavor profiles. And so I think it was harder to establish ourselves as a brand of being a good chocolate maker. And now we have people who are repeat customers and appreciate our products, so that when we create a new product, they're interested and excited to try it. So that's really cool. It's really cool to have people that understand and connect and that are interested in trying something new. I think that if we were, there definitely mass market would not be willing to try some of the crazy flavors, but I think that's for everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What story are you telling with your chocolate at Goodnow Farms?
At Goodnow Farms Chocolate, we are explaining that every bean does have a story, and that every bean is unique, and there's no one size fits all solution, and that you work with the bean and you bring out the unique flavors, and we want to share that with people. And it's really fun. It's fun to tell people where the cacao comes from. It's fun for us to, work in the kitchen to be able to pull out the coolest, most unique flavor notes or things that make us feel good. And it's really fun too to think about other ingredients that we can combine with the cacao to create, flavored chocolate bars. We like to still be creative and create different things. This past summer, we created a chocolate banana split bar, and it was delicious. And it was really fun. And so we like to still have fun, but still honor that, we work with small farmers and people that craft, they even craft at origin these cacao beans. Like, it's not just a bulk commodity crop that you just grow and harvest and you're done. Like, there's a lot of skill that goes along with this. And so we're really grateful we get to work with these people year after year and use their cacao and create chocolate bars that we get to share with others.
You can head to goodnowfarms.com to order the bars we discussed in this episode. I'll put that link in the show notes. Before we wrap up, I want to give a shout out to Jackie Holston, our newest sponsor on Patreon. If you want to support what we're doing at Bean to Barstool and our quarterly beer publication, Final Gravity, you can sign up to support us on patreon.com/Bean to Barstool zines. Or you can get in touch about sponsoring an individual episode or a blog series on beantobarstool.com if you're a chocolate maker or other business. Thanks to Monica Rogan for coming on the show today, and thank you all so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Bean to Barstool.